Hey everyone, Miss Fisher here, and today we're going to be reading The Littles by John Peterson. Let's get started. Chapter 1. William T. Little and his family were tiny people. They lived in a house owned by George W. Bigg. Mr. Bigg and his family didn't know the Littles were living with them. The Littles kept out of sight. They lived in tiny rooms in the walls of the house. The Littles looked almost like people you see every day, but they were very much smaller. Mr. Little was only 6 inches tall, and he was big for a little. The other Littles were even smaller. In one way, the Littles did not look at all like other people. They had tails. The Littles were proud of their tails. They kept them combed and brushed, and sometimes the women curled their tails when they wanted to look especially nice. The Littles took everything they needed from the Biggs. Usually, the Biggs didn't even know anything was missing. But once in a while, Mrs. Biggs would say, "Now where did that thing go? I had it right here a minute ago. It seems to have disappeared." Only last week, her son Henry had shouted, "Hey, Ma, where are my red socks? I can't find them anywhere." And of course, the Littles got all their food from the Biggs. When the Biggs had roast beef for dinner, the Littles had roast beef for dinner too. The Biggs didn't know it, but the electric socket in the kitchen counter was a secret door. As soon as the Biggs family were busy eating their cake or pie or jello, the Littles would dash through the door. They would take what they needed of the leftover dinner scraps and be back through the door in seconds. The Littles helped the Biggs in return for things they took. Only the Biggs didn't know it. For one thing, the Littles were good at fixing things. They ran back and forth inside the walls, repairing the electric wires whenever they needed it. The Littles were good plumbers, too. On cold winter days, they kept the outside water pipes from freezing. Often, they had to stay up all night keeping the pipes warm by candle fire. Mr. Bigg could never understand why his plumbing and electricity worked so well. "I can't believe it," he would say. "I have less trouble with this old house than my neighbors do with their brand new houses." He would shake his head. "I guess they don't make houses the way they used to." Chapter 2. One day in May, the Littles were together in their living room. The two children, Tom, 10 years old, and Lucy, 8, were on the sofa next to their mother. Granny Little sat in her rocking chair, knitting a red sweater for Tom. "Don't know why Henry Bigg made such a fuss when we took his old red socks," she said. "One of them had a real bad hole in the toe." Uncle Pete, holding his cane, leaned against the fireplace. "You have enough red yarn there, Granny," he said, "to start a knitting factory." Mr. Little was walking back and forth. "Please sit down, Will," said Mrs. Little. "You're making me nervous." "Now there's no reason for us to be worried," said Mr. Little. "The Biggs have gone on vacation before." "But never for 3 months," said Mrs. Little. "What about this new family?" said Uncle Pete. "The Newcombs." He shook his cane in the air. "We don't even know them." "We don't have to, Uncle Pete." "I keep telling you that," said Mr. Little. "If they're good enough for the Biggs, they're good enough for the Littles. Besides, they'll only be here for 3 months. We can stand anything for 3 months." "Why do they want to rent a house for only 3 months?" said Tom. "Isn't that kind of silly?" "The Newcombs are from the city," said Mr. Little. "Sometimes city people rent houses in the country where the owners are away on vacation." "It's like a vacation for city people to live in the country for a while," said Mrs. Little. "I don't like it," said Uncle Pete. Suppose they bring a cat with them. Lucy Little moved closer to her mother. Oh, Mother, suppose they bring a cat with them. Mrs. Little put her arm around her daughter. Granny Little stopped rocking. Did he say they have a cat? She nodded towards Uncle Pete. No, no, said Mr. Little. He said suppose they had a cat. Oh, said Granny Little. She started rocking again. I hope they don't bring a cat. Who's afraid of an old cat? Said Tom. I wish everyone would stop talking about cats, said Lucy. I'm afraid of cats. She looked from person to person. Please, let's stop talking about cats. All right, everyone, that was chapter 1 and 2 of The Littles. We'll read chapters 3 and 4 next time. All right, everyone, I'll see you next time then. Bye-bye.